Last time on Dave Made a Maze. Dave, an unemployed, spineless little built a giant subdimensional fort in his living room while his girlfriend was away, but never even bothered to explain how it was big on the inside. Upon arriving home, Dave's girlfriend Annie has decided to enlist the help of several of Dave's friends to try and retrieve him from his cardboard labyrinth. And so far, things have been going really well. Well, one person was decapitated by a cardboard axe, but other than that, this whole rescue endeavor has just been going swimmingly. And I'm sure no one else is going to end up getting killed attempting to try and save Dave from his boredom.
The group runs in fear, making a critical mistake in any maze, let alone this one. Without paying attention to where they're going, they've become lost. Greg and Bryn, your classic bard and rogue combo, well, they make that classic bard and rogue mistake. They go off on their own to have fun and play games, but when the bard and rogue get into trouble, which they always do, there's no one to help them out. So the two of them playing around in the maze, not paying attention. Greg runs into some bad luck. He throws a single bad die and bam, a giant spike wall made out of cardboard tubes swings into him. And Greg, as a level 1 bard with only 4 measly hit points to his name, gets impaled as the giant cardboard trap comes swinging down. A trap that he should have been prodding and searching for with a 10-foot pole before he just went carelessly walking around dungeon that the dungeon master had already made very clear had traps in it. But Greg, not paying attention to the table game, and instead just having fun and making cutesy eyes with his girlfriend Bryn, he apparently didn't get the message. And the hobo, he is a hard-as-nails, Gary Gygax, no second chances style DM, so when this trap comes down, it comes down dealing 22 damage to a character with only 4 hit points on a sunny day, killing him instantly, and Bryn runs back to the rest of the party to tell them of Greg's death, and to try and convince them to leave the maze, but Annie's oath as a paladin prohibits her from leaving Dave the Mage behind, so she ushers on, taking the rest of the party with her. Really though, these are first level characters and many of them are inexperienced. They'd be rough off in a game of 3rd or 5th edition D&D, but this 2nd edition stuff is way over their heads, and Annie, as optimistic as she is that they're going to complete their quest, she's running on a pretty ragtag crew of adventurers at this point. And Frank the Tank, our resident boom mic operator and loyal knight to the palace guard, he's the only one with decent enough stats to stand a chance against any one of these cardboard monsters and their beefy stat blocks. But alas, everyone's coming to the realization of how hard this quest is going to be, and they're coming to that realization a little too late. As they go to check on their fallen ally to see if there's anything Annie can do, again, there's not, she's first level, and since no one else in the party is a healer, all I can say is, good luck guys, you're gonna need it. Greg, sadly, is super dead. Gordon the Well-Bearded, apparently familiar with labyrinths and the way of minotaurs, Gordon knows the disappearance of Greg's body is a telltale sign that the beast has been here recently. Luckily, it shouldn't be too hungry. Gordon begins to question Bryn, trying to get details that Harry can add to his epic poem, but Bryn, still covered in the blood of viscera of her former lover and partner in crime, has no time for this nonsense, so she slaps the shit out of Gordon, which, albeit funny in the moment, drops a few precious hit points from the befuddled cross-classer. The party presses onward, down one hallway, around another. The sounds of the Minotaur now becoming clearer. Annie the paladin acts quickly, grabbing her trusty box cutter and cutting a hole through the labyrinth itself. Wind begins to roar. Cardboard pieces begin flying everywhere, but Annie uses all of her might as she pulls the pieces apart, tearing a hole into the maze. Through the opening, the party can see a giant cardboard eye staring at them. Annie presses onward anyway. Seeing that the eye is just an optical illusion, the rest of the group follows suit as well, save Bryn, who hesitates. We hear the Minotaur roar, and in her moment of hesitation, the beast rushes through, tearing her to shreds. The remaining party members flee. Only Frank the boom mic operator, Steve the cameraman, Annie the paladin, and Gordon the well-bearded remain. And dramatically unprepared to take on the Minotaur, they run, taking no note of which way they're going, not worrying about the traps, they're just running at top speed. But the Minotaur follows after them. Some grace shines upon them, though, as one lucky turn leads them right into Dave the Mage. The only character above level 1, and probably the only one with any chance of taking on the Minotaur. Now that the group has returned to the safety of the 5-man band trope, they might just actually have a chance. Everyone tries to catch up quickly, but Steve ushers them onward, through a small tunnel and into an Alice in Wonderland-style room where everyone exists in a perspective scale and the doors loop back in on themselves. To everyone else it seems like they're trapped in liminal space again, but Dave the Mage has plays for days. Off, on one of the liminal tables, he opens a giant present. Creating a magical doorway, he drops through. The rest of the party, slightly cautious but with little other option, follow behind him. The portal, present, leads downwards, down into a series of cardboard pipes underneath the room, and through the pipes. As the party travels, the party is transmuted into paperback caricatures of themselves. Obviously, Dave the Mage's magic has gotten away from him. Probably just the overspecialization and conjuration, but that's just a guess. The party, still puppets at this point, press on. We hear the roar of the Minotaur, apparently unafraid of Dave's magic. The puppetry party hastily rushes on, narrowly dodging guillotines and hammers and arrows, all set to balk their way. Then, Puppet Minotaur shows up. At first it seems, no big deal, he's just a puppet, but Puppet Minotaur, he shrugs off Dave's magic easily, returning to full Minotaur form. The party, finally with a leader, follow after Dave as he calls for them to jump down a pipe with him. The pipe is, well, a little too big pipe. We're of course following Mario rules here, as far as the pipes are concerned at least. So now they're fully reconstructed. They are, they're still pretty much helpless, all of them except for Dave the Mage, of course. He's still got a few tricks up his sleeve. Remembering the clever adage to stay calm and always carry a towel, he whips out his emergency towel and puts it up over the walkway, creating a temporary wall. It won't buy them much time, but it might just be enough for them to find someplace safe and come up with a new plan. We can faintly make out the Minotaur's feet underneath the wall towel. The wall shakes as he approaches. He steps up behind the wall towel, but alas, like the Balrog bound by Gandorf's ward, the Minotaur shall not pass. The Minotaur steps back and begins heading down another path. The party begins to argue, but Gordon the Well-Bearded holds back, for he knows a Minotaur has a natural cunning. The Minotaur knows this maze like the back of his hand. Dave tries to convince the rest of the group to help him finish the maze. He knows it's dangerous and unstable, but it's not finished. And it's going to remain unstable, he says, until it's complete. This is where Leonard makes the critical mistake of splitting the party, walking off carelessly on his own. And as he walks off for a moment, he stops in his tracks. He sees the Minotaur's axe, still dripping with blood, stuck into the wall across from him. He looks down, and on the floor is Janet's decapitated head. And behind Leonard, an origami monster slowly becomes visible. Back with the rest of the party, Dave is trying to make sense of the maze. It's clear it's gotten away from him. There are pieces he doesn't remember making, as if it's growing on its own. And then they find the vortex. It's giant, made out of cardboard, and it's glowing purple and pink. It also looks auspiciously like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting, almost like hibiscus with plumera. And it's summoning them, calling to them, pulling them in. Luckily, Dave stops Annie from touching the hibiscus. And Annie stops Gordon from touching the plumera, who then stops Harry from touching the anthers, who for the love of God, just in the nick of time, stops the cameraman from touching the stigma.
Really? A horticulture joke?
It was a giant purple oval with shag carpeting, so yeah, I went with a horticulture joke. But as Dave unwraps his trusty towel from around his hand, he shows us all what happens if you touch an O'Keeffe without permission. His whole hand has transmuted into papercraft. Terrified, Annie the Paladin convinces the group to leave the cursed room of the false womb, and begrudgingly, with the help of the Paladin, the group comes to their senses. Breaking free from O'Keeffe's enchantment, they leave the room and venture forth once again. It seems like progress is being made. Which is when we check back in with a party member that I honestly thought was going to be dead. It's Leonard! Apparently not killed by that other origami monster either. So I'm just saying, there's the Minotaur, there's the traps, and then there's the origami creatures that are just like bats and mice. They're essentially harmless. They're way more afraid of you than you are of them. And that tiny little bite is going to heal in no time. And really, probably, most likely, you weren't incubated with a mind-altering virus which will lead to fever, paranoia, violent hallucinations, paralysis, convulsions, and eventually death. So like I said, Leonard, just fine. So yes, somehow he is still alive, and Leonard, I just cannot stress this enough for any would-be partygoers out there. Do not follow Leonard's example. Never split the party. It's never a good idea. It's almost always a trap by a DM who's just gotten bored with you. Trust me, you don't want that.
If your DM is trying to get you to split the party, it is vitally important that you stay calm. Do not take any actions or attempt any sudden movements. Wait and carefully plan out your words. Remember, your DM cannot force you to speak until you are ready. Never acknowledge that you have concerns over the overall strength of the split. Instead, always try to avoid the split through canon-related inter-party relationships. For example, "Oh gracious and kind Dungeon Master, Party member X would never leave party member Y because of backstory element C. This has been shown to prevent a bored DM from splitting the party 9 out of 10 times.
Leonard has finally made his way to the transmutation tubes, dropping down one to turn into a paper puppet like the others before him. As the rest of the group make their way down hallways, things are beginning to look familiar. Unsure at first, that bit of corrugated single ply? That rip in the cardboard stock over there? Yes! They're on the right track. They've been here before. With the haste and trepidation of any group of adventurers that had witnessed the horrors they had witnessed, the group rushes on with a frantic pace, not taking heed for traps, not looking out for the Minotaur. No, now they simply run. Soon they're running through the first couple rooms of the labyrinth, and then they actually make it to the entrance. So excited, so relieved, the group finally leaves the labyrinth, but when they do, they are met with shock and awe, for Dave's apartment has transmuted to cardboard. It has become part of the maze itself, where every maze wants to grow. It pushes its creator to expand it, it draws from them, and it becomes. And Dave's maze has now engulfed his entire apartment. How far the spell will spread is still unknown, but Dave has a plan. If they lead the Minotaur to the Georgia O'Keeffe painting, all they need to do is get it to touch the hibiscus, or the plumera, or the anthers, or the stigma. Doesn't matter which. They can turn him to cardboard. Dave can disarm the traps, and they can finally finish this ever-loving maze. And Dave's sure, he's sure, absolutely positive, if they complete the maze, actually finish it, this whole cardboard transmutation thing will just sort of figure itself out. And Harry? He's impressed with Dave's impassioned speech. He finally sits the mage down so he can do a little one-on-one interview with him for the bardic poem he's been working on. The Epic of Dave. He asks Dave why he's built the maze, and Dave says, I just wanted to make something. And I can't just sit on my couch or watch TV and think that the internet's going to inspire me because I'm 30 years old. I work jobs that I hate and then I have to beg to get. Do you know what it means to be broke? It means that you are broken, that you don't work. Everyone are assholes. Everyone is assholes. No, that doesn't sound right. And he just comes off like such a spineless little asshole in the scene. Feeling broken, inept, and tertiarily useless, Dave runs off to the passageway from a 2021 Space Odyssey where Annie consoles him. Stronger now, she places her hands upon his. You know, the one that's made out of cardboard. But Annie's paladinic healing powers aren't strong enough. She can't heal him. Always the paladin, however, Annie is not deterred. She takes Dave from the tunnel of sorrow, leading him back to the cardboard hell that their living room has become. But Annie, she's got a plan. Not only does Annie have a plan to save the day, she also has snacks for Rumblade Hummies and Angry Davies. Dave rolls out his craft kit, consisting of a towel, smart, a heavy-duty pair of scissors, a 15-foot bundle of rope, 100 feet of yarn, a roll of duct tape, and a deck of playing cards. Frank the fighter / boom mic operator emerges from the maze as well, a little shaken, but who cares? It's Frank the tank and he's back, and apparently Frank is more than just a meathead, he's clever too. He's laid a path of sunflower seeds as a trail back into the maze. Clever thinking, Frank. Sunflower seeds are a much better alternative to breadcrumbs. The trail's much more visible, you don't have to worry about origami animals eating them, and you get some num-nums for yourself. Gordon the well-bearded, as well-spoken as always, lays out the obvious. The maze is growing. Yeah, duh. But he also has a precognitive knowledge that the maze has a heart, a weak point. The maze must have a heart, and if we could destroy it, the rest of the maze would crumble. It's a point that Dave agrees on, but he never built the heart to the maze, because he's never finished it. And finally, after one good bad pun, Annie the Paladin is finally on board to finish the maze. They're off to build the heart, then stab it with their steely knives. But oh no, the next part of the maze is just a smaller maze, and this maze is not complete. Luckily, this little maze is only shin-high and quickly traversed. Leonard, we finally get back to that sad sap Leonard, and what a poor predicament he is in. He's all on his own, separated from the group. They're all heading inside the maze. He's lost deep within its core. He's gotten off track, way off track. And as he rounds about a corner, ready to press on, Leonard is stopped by the glowing purple light of the hibiscus. He's caught in its dead lights. Meanwhile, our other group of adventurers stumble onto something they're not supposed to see. At the end of the otherwise vacant hallway, it seems to be strung up by the hands. so I don't think it's going anywhere. But what it is, it looks